NBC New York, this is the news, reported by Chet Huntley and David Brinkley.
An Apollo 11 mission control officer said tonight in Houston that the astronauts' walk on the moon could conceivably take place 3.5 hours sooner than scheduled. If it does, that would have them walking on the moon before midnight Sunday Eastern Time. The Apollo 11 crew, meanwhile, still speaking only when spoken to, sped past the halfway mark to the moon on a mission which continues to be faultless. Shortly after noon Eastern Time, they fired a 3-second burst from the command ship's main engine to refine their aim for the moon by 132 miles. Astronaut Aldrin did remark that through binoculars he could see sunset over the eastern Mediterranean, the green of England, a little haze over northern Italy, and he added that a rain cloud over Houston would have a short life. In Washington, President Nixon announced a new feature in the mission of Apollo 11.
Our astronauts will be taking with them the flags of the 50 states and a number of other items of great interest which they will bring back. They will also be taking with them the medals that were given to 3 of our astronauts who were killed in the Apollo flight. And they will leave on the moon the patches from those medals. They also will be taking with them 2 other medals. When Frank Borman was in the Soviet Union, he was presented 2 medals from the wives of the cosmonauts, the Russian cosmonauts, who lost their lives in their space program. And at the request of their wives, he will leave those medals on the moon. And I think this symbolic act of leaving on the moon, in the one case, the aspects of the medals that those who lost their lives in our space program and the medals of the Soviet cosmonauts, indicates the true spirit of the American armed forces. We maintain strength, but we maintain it because we want peace. Peace with all countries.
The Soviets broke their silence on Luna 15. Moscow said the spacecraft went into orbit around the moon this morning to become the moon's new artificial satellite. That indicated the Russians were not going for a moon landing. But Sir Bernard Lovell, director of Britain's Jodrell Bank Observatory, thinks the Soviets will try to land Luna 15 on the moon and then direct it to bring back some moon samples. David?
The Senate Finance Committee voted today to give President Nixon what he wanted. The 10% surtax continued all of this year and then reduced to 5% the first 6 months of next year. There's been a lot of talk about reforming the tax structure. At the same time, the 10% tax was continued, but there is none of that in sight now. A report from NBC News correspondent Douglas Kiker.
The Finance Committee overruled its chairman, Senator Russell Long, in approving a simple extension of the surtax. Long wanted to hold hearings for another week or so, then come up with a bill containing a few non-controversial tax reforms. That way he hoped to avoid a big fight on the Senate floor, but his strategy failed. Here's what Long and Senator John Williams, the ranking Republican on the Finance Committee, had to say after the vote.
I wanted to avoid finding ourselves in a situation where men of goodwill could not get together and do what was responsible with regard to this nation's fiscal and monetary problems in view of the chaotic situation that might develop. But I did the best I could to try to keep these people from arriving at an impasse, and I was not successful in preventing that impasse. So I would think now, with the bill out there on the calendar, those who voted for it will see what they can do to bring it up, and maybe they can motion it up, but they might find it very difficult.
Well, do you think you can get this bill to the floor with Senator Mansfield saying what he's saying these days?
Oh, I'm an optimist. I think that the Senate will act on this bill in a proper and expeditious manner. There's no doubt in my mind but what we will vote on it. I can't conceive otherwise.
Does that mean you expect passage before the August recess?
That's what I'm hoping for, and I see no reason why we shouldn't.
When and if the surtax extension makes it to the Senate floor, advocates of tax reform say they'll take their fight there, too. The Senate floor is the last place to work out something as complicated as tax reform, but they say now they have no place else to to go. Douglas Kiker, NBC News, Washington.
So in that committee, anyway, the president got what he wanted. In another one today, he did not. The voting rights bill now covers only 7 southern states. He wanted it renewed to apply to all 50 states. The House Judiciary Committee refused and it voted to continue the law as it is.
The Huntley Brinkley Report is produced by NBC News and brought to you in color by
Anacin, with the specific compound that relaxes tension as it relieves headache pain. Reach for Anacin. 1, 2, tie your shoe. Simple. Any 6-year-old can do it. Except when arthritis flares up with frustrating pain, stiffness. There is help for arthritics. Help when you reach for Anacin. The Anacin formula relieves minor pain and so eases arthritis stiffness for hours, because Anacin has the pain reliever doctors prescribe most for arthritis. What a difference Anacin can make to the arthritis sufferer when even a simple movement can cause pain. At times like this, Anacin brings more freedom of movement without pain. More freedom of movement without pain. Minutes after taking Anacin, feel pain and stiffness flow from affected joints. The joy of doing simple things returns. Reach for help. Reach for Anacin. More freedom of movement without pain.
The Senate met in secret today, and nobody was allowed in but the members and a few clerks. Even their own staff members were sent out, and so were the reporters. The stated reason was that some members wanted to quote from secret material in discussing the anti-ballistic missile system, material too secret to let the public hear it. From time to time, some senators did wander outside. Here's a report from contributing editor John Chancellor.
The secret session lasted nearly 6 hours today, and it looks as though there will have to be another session. Senator Stuart Symington has already called for one. Symington also said that everyone's mind is pretty well made up on the ABM issue, and there is no indication that today's debate changed any minds. Before they locked the doors today, Majority Leader Mike Mansfield spoke with reporters on the Senate floor as Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy watched. Mansfield said the odds now slightly favor those who want to safeguard ABM, but he added it's still a toss-up. Anything could happen between now and the vote. Then they did lock the doors and begin the secret debate. Stuart Symington spoke for the opposition, and part of his presentation included the argument that the Russians can overcome the ABM system by building a relatively few more missiles. Senator Henry Jackson spoke for the administration using charts prepared by the Pentagon. Most of this had been predicted in advance. What had not been predicted was a move by supporters of the ABM to introduce new secret information on the nature of the Soviet threat. Some opponents of the ABM had been expecting that move, and part of their response was to ask for another secret session so that this new evaluation of the Russian threat can be properly debated. Senator John Stennis earlier today had said that he would present evidence of a buildup in Soviet weaponry, including missiles and submarines. That may involve the new information introduced today. In any case, after 6 secret hours, the Senate today is still, in terms of the ABM debate, a toss-up, too close to call.
For the 26th time, the interested parties to the Vietnam War met today in Paris, and they might have done better by staying home. The free election plan of South Vietnam's President Thieu was formally presented, and just as formally, but with abuse and invective, the other side turned it down. It was not an ebullient Secretary of State Rogers who appeared today before the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He said the United States and South Vietnam have made concession after concession, and the only reaction is totally negative, that they become more intransigent, more unreasonable, and more inhumane. The battlefield lull continues. American and enemy combat casualties dropped last week to the lowest point since the 1st of January. 148 Americans were killed. South Vietnam lost 352. Enemy losses were placed at 2,051.
Ultra Bright toothpaste, a taste you can really feel. Ultra Bright gives your mouth sex appeal.
Ultra Bright, the sex appeal toothpaste. The kickiest taste, the brightest teeth. the freshest breath.
Ultra Bright gives your mouth fresh appeal.
After Ultra Bright, everything else is just toothpaste.
The tantalizing fragrance of Rapid Shave smells so good, you won't want to shave it off.
Smells so good, you won't want to shave it off. Smells so good, you won't want to shave it off. Smells so good.
Rapid Shave in juicy lime, tingling menthol mint, and the fresh wake-up fragrance of regular.
Smells so good, you won't want to shave it off.
For the second straight night, there was racial violence in Youngstown, Ohio. It continued until early today, and Governor Rhodes sent in 150 National Guardsmen to help police end it. Tear gas was spread over a 10-block area. 28 people were arrested and 8 hurt, and buildings and cars were burned. A St. Louis Firemen's Union official said today that firemen will not answer calls to city housing projects without adequate police protection. He said people in the projects have shot at the firemen and thrown things at them. In Jacksonville, Florida, the police have taken a new tack. They formed a youth patrol to help them out. A report from NBC News correspondent Ron Nesson.
I would personally like to welcome each of you young fellows into our police youth patrol.
About 150 youngsters aged 16 to 21 have been taken into the Jacksonville Youth Patrol to ride with policemen on their nightly rounds. Some have been in trouble, a few have records. Jacksonville has had several riots in recent years. There has been antagonism between the generations and between the races. Officials hope the Youth Patrol will break down this mutual hostility. Joseph Mike Allison is 17 years old, just out of high school. He says in his world, policemen have the reputation of being brutal. He joined the Youth Patrol to find out if they are.
The members have been real great.
Allison, go with Officer Wright.
Mike was assigned to ride with Officer Richard Wright, 27 years old, a 5-year veteran of the police force.
Officer Gardner, Davis, Officer Hams.
Now, our siren.
Wright spent much of the first hours on patrol giving his young partner basic instruction in operating the radio, flashing light, and siren. Mike's father does not live at home, so he rarely has the chance to talk this long and closely with a man.
We could either use this button by pressing it whenever we wanted to. It would sound something like this.
After dark, the calls picked up.
724 HQ, 1043. 1034, 724.
Wright and Mike were sent to a house where a woman had cut her husband with a broken bottle.
Y'all please move back away from the
Y'all please move back away. Let's give this man a little bit of everybody move him back out the door. All right?
The policeman told Mike to stay in the squad car for safety and so the boy could radio for more help if needed. When they returned from patrol, the policemen and the boys sat around headquarters and hashed over their experiences.
How many people, and tell it like it is, how many people here, opinions are changed tonight after what they've seen in this 4-hour period? Raise your hand. All right. Have you been able to significantly change your opinion of the police? Have you, Anthony?
Yes. Well, in the beginning, I thought the police was just a troublemaker. And now I see that he's more a friend than an enemy.
I got as much, I believe, as the young boy that rode with me tonight. He was very intelligent, and we talked a lot about what we felt like the problems of the community would be and what the program would offer. But basically, I believe I received as much from it as he did in understanding of the problems of the youth. I have some entirely new outlooks that I didn't have before, and I'd kind of like to have another chance at it myself.
This is just one small program in one city. But if nothing else, for 3 or 4 hours a night, policemen and young people are talking to each other. And that's a first step toward understanding each other. Ron Nesson, NBC News, Jacksonville, Florida.
Imagine spraying starch on a hot iron. But I'll do it to prove today's Easy on Speed starch is really different. It has the special GE silicone formula that prevents starch buildup. To prove how effective it is, let's spray here using Easy On without GE silicones. Now, let's see the difference. Look, with GE silicones, there's no starch buildup. Yes, Easy On won't build up, scorch, or stick. Guaranteed or money back. Try Easy On. It's different.
The Huntley Brinkley Report continues, brought to you by
Borden. Doing more and more things for more and more people.
We're here at this truck stop to prove that instant kava has less acidity than ground coffee. Watch. This meter measures acid in coffee. First, we'll test this ground coffee. See that? Coffee acid. Now instant kava. Almost no acidity, because 90% of kava's acid has been neutralized. That's why kava has smoother flavor and less acid taste.
Buddy, you've got yourself a customer.
New York City has something called the Democratic Coalition, an extremely loose organization, if indeed it is an organization, of liberals. Last night, they voted to support John Lindsay, even though a Republican, for re-election as mayor, because the Democratic candidate, Mario Procaccino, is too conservative for them. Well, this coalition includes McCarthy people and Kennedy people and a lot of others, and after last night's vote, one thing led to another, including shouting and the throwing of chairs. NBC News correspondent Lem Tucker reports.
The Democratic Coalition's members had spent most of the month since the primary election trying to decide what to do. Last night, they got together to vote on whether they'd endorse Mayor Lindsay. But things never seem to go quite that simply for the New York Democrats. They're known to love fights, and last night, they had plenty to love. Just as the chairman was trying to take a vote, a group of supporters of a recently ousted Puerto Rican city official stood up and demanded that the vote be postponed until Mayor Lindsay reinstated the man.
And I'm for Spanish law. We want to negotiate. I have all the right to work.
Then someone threw a punch and a chair. Lindsay got the support he wanted, but he didn't need another fight out in the open just when he was trying to build a coalition for his re-election. So just how much the group's endorsement will mean will depend on whether the liberals can stop fighting. Lem Tucker, NBC News, New York.
Mingo County, West Virginia, is where the Hatfields and McCoys occasionally killed each other until they smoothed it over. That was a long time ago, but now Mingo is one of the country's poorest counties. Unemployment is high, and about half the people live in what is officially declared to be poverty. The county's poverty agency is trying to bring in some tourist money by advertising for visitors to come and live with local people for $18 a day to get to know the people and to see the county. One of the first takers was Jeffrey Douglas, a 25-year-old graduate student from New York, who moved in for a while with a disabled minor and his family.
There's a great deal of talk in New York and around the college and academic community about what the way of life is down here and what it is in any poverty area in the world, and you never know very much about what you're talking about. And when you get an opportunity to do something like this in a project as unique as this one is, I think it's an opportunity that anybody that has the time and the money to do it, really, you can't afford to miss it.
Hi.
How are you? Mrs. Pollock, how are you?
Pretty good. I love to take people in my home.
That's a lot of production, huh?
I think it's real nice.
This is little Anna.
Well, I might learn something from him, or my children might learn something from him.
Is that one of your...
He might learn something from us.
No.
Another thing, I need some extra money with a large family. You all can use a little extra money. This is the room you'll be sleeping in. And you'll have to share it with the boy. But I think that'll please you, though. It'll be they like to talk, and we have lots of times we have to make them hush talking and go to bed. And I think you'll like that.
They don't have any apparent defenses or any hostilities toward me, even though I am quite obviously from a different social economic level. I encounter no feelings of hostility or strangeness or an unwillingness to get to know me or to communicate with me. My first impression of him is simply one of open friendliness.
I just think he's nice. He is. I seem to like he's nice. I don't know. I told the boys I wanted to bring him in where I go to meet him, and they was a little shy, you know, how young boys is, basically raised up a holler like this. And I said, he seems to be awful nice to me.
Back in the 50s, there's 22 men working on one section, or what we call a section. And nowadays, there's 5 and 6 men that produce more coal than there was with the 22 at that time.
That's because of the automation?
That's it. That's really what cut made the unemployment in this state more than any other one thing. Because that's about the only industry is in this state, is coal mine.
Well, these on this side.
How's it working?
Yeah, she looks like a good thing.
Marita, this is way too hot.
Many different descriptions of a common complaint.
It's a stuffy, uncomfortable feeling for me.
It's a tense, tight burning sensation.
An upset stomach.
I suppose it's a very precise description. All I know is that it's a rotten, miserable feeling.
Recognize your description of heartburn and acid indigestion. People are affected differently, but one product relieves all those symptoms. Digel, the extra action antacid, with the extra action of simethicone. This white layer of Digel contains effective antacids to neutralize excess acid. This yellow layer contains simethicone in a patented formulation that breaks up frothy bubbles of gas to help relax your tense, tight stomach. So whatever you call indigestion distress, remember Digel with simethicone is the extra action antacid that brings you more complete relief, tablets or liquid.
Honduras and El Salvador today accepted a ceasefire proposed by the Organization of American States and then promptly ignored it. Troops of each country have penetrated the territory of the other. Honduras seems to have the better of the fighting. Israel said Egyptian gunners fired on Red Cross and UN officials at Kantara today when they tried to return the bodies of 3 Egyptian commandos. There was no report on casualties. Assistant Secretary of State Joseph Sisko today submitted a new American proposal for the Mideast to the Soviet Union before leaving Moscow. The National Association of Broadcasters today approved changes in its code to eliminate all broadcast cigarette advertising by September 1963. A federal appeals court in New Orleans upheld the conviction of 7 Klan members involved in the 1964 murders of 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi. The New York Stock Exchange and the American Stock Exchange will be closed Monday in observance of President Nixon's National Day of Participation for Apollo 11. Today on the New York Stock Exchange, the Dow Jones Industrial rose again, almost 4 points, and the value of an average share of common stock went up 23 cents. David?
The University of Chicago runs a laboratory school working with very young children, trying to help them get started right when they're ready for the first grade. Well, this week, they've been watching the Apollo flight on television, and they, like everyone, are full of opinions on what the astronauts may find when they land on the moon. NBC News correspondent Bill Matney talked to some of them.
What do you think they're going to find up there?
Moon creatures eating the green cheese.
What?
Moon creatures eating the green cheese.
Jeffrey thinks there's some moon men up there.
Moon.
He said the moon men are eating up all the green cheese on the moon. You believe that?
No, because if they ate all the cheese up there, there wouldn't be any moon. Well, the first thing is green cheese is soft. And it wouldn't hold the moon up in the sky.
So there's no green cheese on the moon?
Nope. It wouldn't hold the astronauts if they went on the moon, green cheese. I don't think there's green cheese up there either.
You don't?
No.
What do you think's up there then?
Craters, I guess.
Jeffrey thinks there are some moon creatures up there, and that they may eat up the astronauts. Do you think there are moon creatures up there?
There are, but they won't eat up the astronauts.
No? Why? Why won't they eat up the astronauts?
Because they don't have big enough mouths, and the astronauts are too big for them to eat, because the moon creatures are just little creatures.
What do you think's up there if there are no moon creatures up there? What do you think? What do you think's up there?
Just space and no air.
Huh?
No air and
what
just
about all this
space.
business about green cheese on the moon? Huh?
There's no green cheese, just gravity.
What?
Just gravity is on the moon.
Good night, Chet.
Good night, David. Good night for NBC News.